Hello guys and welcome back again, thanks for watching. And in this video I'm going to be talking about and showing you how to prepare a sawn cut fluffy MDF edge like this one and transform it into something as flat and smooth as this one in a few simple steps, ready for primer and top coats. What we've done is we've stacked up all our MDF in sizes, make sure they're flush at the front and square as well. So we're making sure that this is square, we haven't stacked it at an angle. And we've gone bigger to smaller, clamped them up. And we just use some nice big heavy duty clamps, clamp them to the benches. But I'm going to tell you how to sand these up so they're absolutely perfect, ready for painting with a sprayer, a roller or a brush. The next step is to use a decent orbital sander, 5 or a 6 inch, the wider the better really, and start with P60. So now we've got them stacked up and I've showed you what the sander we're going to use and what pads we use. Sean's going to give you a little demonstration, and the technique he's going to use is up and down, up and down, up and down, and keep on going a few times until he's happy and all the rough parts of the MDF has disappeared. Remember, he's got 2 more grits to go with. He doesn't have to get it to an absolute perfect state at this time, as long as he gets out most of the roughness and any saw cuts. So now the hoover's on. You see the technique, he's going up and down, because there will be minute steps in between each board, so he's just trying to smooth those off before he goes back over it a few more times. And he's going to try and keep the sander as square to the pack as he can, not rolling it over, otherwise he's going to get curved edges. You can see he's getting on the wider part of the pack now. It's starting to feel nice and smooth, like no steps in between each board. They're being blended into each other. The fluffiness hasn't disappeared yet, but that will happen in the next 2 grades, the 120 and the 240. He's keeping his knees bent so his body's in the right position, just to move his arms up and down. A little trick of the trade is, if you've got more than one set of edges to do, this edge, and this edge, try and have one pack overhanging at least so you can get two sets done. So all the P60 is done, and all the P120 and all the P240, 3 grades. As you can see, it's come out lovely and smooth, completely uniform. But there are still a few fluffy bits left and a few little saw marks that haven't come out completely. But that's not to worry, because that's what the filler's for. And so what Sean's doing now is he's going to apply this filler. We're using a jointing compound, which is used for plasterboarding. When you joint 2 bits of plaster, when it goes off, it goes hard. It's easy to sand, and it comes in a big ready mix tub. Sean's got it on a spot board, nice big spot board, nice big blob. As you can see, it's a hand-sized blob. We've got a nice wide spreader, cleaned up perfectly, and he's just going to pick up a nice amount. So we need to push it into the grain. So the point of this is that we're going to be filling any leftover holes or imperfections in the MDF, and this is going to take about 5 minutes, this pack. It's quite a big area. Probably going to take about 2 of those blobs on the spot board. And you can see any saw marks, any imperfections, it does fill. Any leftover saw marks or any fluffiness. It's amazing stuff. Using a nice wide filler knife will cut down your job time by a fair amount. Once you push it on, you want to scrape off as much as you can, and that's the idea. Before Sean did this, he dusted it down with a nice soft broom. That way you don't get all the dust, all the MDF dust into filler mix. So Sean's now done 1 pack, and the noise you can hear is the space heater just drying it, so we don't have to wait half an hour. It'll be dry in 5 minutes. And this is how it should look. Looks a little bit patchy at the moment, the filler, but that will sand off lovely and leave any of the residue filler in any of the imperfections. And Sean's left this one a little bit heavy on purpose, because this was the one with the fluffy edges, so it's given it a helping hand. If it's still slightly fluffy, it's always best just to leave more than less. That makes sense. So these are all the packs done completely now, all the filler. And Sean's ready with the sander, and now we're just going to sand it with a P240. And it won't need much, it just needs a little tickle really. That's one of them done. You might need to go over a couple of times here, yeah, because he put it on slightly heavier, but he wants to leave some filler on still. It's starting to feel really smooth now. All these edges, all different colours and shades, and looks a little bit patchy, but until you apply the paint or the undercoat that we're going to do now, it's always going to look like this. So now he's sanded them with P240, he's just going to give it a light dust with the broom. Nice soft brush, get rid of any remaining dust because we don't want that in the paint. Great, so now we're ready for the paint. We're going for an acrylic primer undercoat. We used to use Zinsser, but we found this does exactly the same. We just put 2 coats on. Zinsser is really expensive, it's about 100 quid for one of these tins. This is about 30 quid. And we find that this acrylic primer does exactly the same as the Zinsser. All we need to do is give it 2 coats. And as you can see, it's starting to look lovely and flat. And what we're doing is you're using a 4-inch roller. Put plenty on, don't be shy. It's quite satisfying seeing it go white, getting rid of all those ugly fluffy edges. And that is the first coat done. And we'll have the space heater on once more, but ultimately that will dry in 5-10 minutes. Okay, so we got one more layer of paint on last night and it's had all night to dry. So what Sean's gonna do now is just denib it with P240, and all it needs is a really light rub. And it's just 5 seconds on each piece. And what that does is just take off any roller marks and any little high spots. So that is all you need to do to get your edges nice and flat, ready for painting. As you can see, they're going to take the paint lovely. Alright, so that is how we treat all our edges and prepare them for painting. So basically you need to sand, 3 braids, then once that's done, dust it down. You then put the filler on, wait for that to dry, sand that down with P240 with a sander, dust it down. Once that's done, you give it a coat of paint. Once the paint's done, you give it 1 more coat. Once that's dry, preferably overnight, get your hand sandpaper, P240, knock down those high spots, job done, ready for any machining that you may need to do. Alright guys, I hope that helped. It's helped us a great deal over time, and this is the technique that we always use, and I hope you found that useful. Hope to see you in the next video guys, see you soon, bye for now.